But this is not the only possible interpretation of the story.
Adam and Eve can be looked at, particularly by contemporary women, as a story of liberation. You can look at Eve as the smarter one, the more aggressive one, the one who actually thinks about whether to eat that piece of fruit or not. And meanwhile, what is Adam doing just standing there?
Adam and Eve had committed the first sin, and that sin is not sex.
The original sin, as far as we see it in Genesis, was disobeying God. So that the original sin is arrogance. The original sin is outright rebellion and disobedience against God.
For their disobedience, God punishes Adam and Eve by expelling them from the Garden of Eden. Now, everything changes. Like every generation to follow, they will know passion and they will know death. Adam is condemned to struggle to bring food from an unforgiving earth. Eve's punishment includes desire and domination.
I will greatly increase your pangs in childbearing. In pain you shall bring forth children. Yet your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you. Genesis 3:16.
God did not intend it to be this way. And what they're saying as early as the 10th century BC is that the domination of male over female is a result of our sinfulness. She was created to join with her husband in a oneness of marital love. Now that oneness becomes only this humiliating domination that she knows.
Sexual passion is a dangerous part of Eve's sentence. Desire leads to pregnancy, and until recent times, women and babies often died in childbirth.
I think for men, to whom intercourse was risk-free, they must have wondered, what is it about women that still draws them to this activity that proves so dangerous to their health and to their lives?
In the ancient world, a home filled with children was seen as a sign of divine favor.
For ancient women of the Bible, barrenness was perhaps the worst curse that they could experience. It was through giving birth that they received their greatest status in their society.
Children were wealth. They were a workforce to till the land and tend the flocks. They allowed the tribe to build alliances through marriage. And most important of all, they carried on the family name. At some point, the lineage of each of the patriarchs of Judaism was in jeopardy. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The Bible tells us that all of their wives struggled with infertility, and their inability to bear children caused them unimaginable grief.
When Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, she said to Jacob, "Give me children, or I shall die." Jacob became very angry with Rachel and said, "Am I in the place of God, who has withheld from you the fruit of the womb?" Genesis 30:1.
How could it be that Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, the wives of the patriarchs, all had difficulty conceiving? Some scholars speculate that this is nothing more than a literary device to create drama and tension in Israel's saga.
Time and again, if you have a story of an infertile matriarch, you know that they're signaling that this is going to be a special child, a child that will shape the history of Israel.
I think the matriarchs are infertile in part because it creates this tremendous miraculous sense when they then give birth. When there has been, in effect, barren land for a long time, then when there is bloom, all of a sudden, it seems wondrous and otherworldly and is clearly a gift of God's.
Other experts find more instructive meaning in the barrenness of the matriarchs.
I do believe that the stories that the matriarchs had such difficulties getting pregnant were purposely placed there in order not to take it for granted that you get pregnant. That sometimes it's hard work, sometimes you might have to go to a specialist, but I think it's a way of saying, look people, don't take it for granted.
The women of the Bible would do anything to get a child to carry on their husband's name. Sarah, the wife of Abraham, was barren. Agonized by her failure to produce a child, she brought her slave Hagar to her husband to serve as a concubine or second wife.
The story of Sarah giving Hagar to her husband, urging her husband to have sexual relations with Hagar, is a very difficult story. It is offensive to our contemporary senses. It goes against everything that we stand for: the misuse of another woman, economic exploitation of a woman, our feelings about monogamy and fidelity.
Hagar duly conceives a son to carry on the name of Abraham. Once pregnant, the slave's attitude toward her infertile mistress undergoes a dramatic change.
When she saw that she had conceived, she looked with contempt upon her mistress. Then Sarah dealt harshly with her. Genesis 16:4.
Sarah erred in being overgiving because she couldn't sustain it. She thought she would be all right, but in fact, when she saw that Hagar had a child and she couldn't endure it, which is an interesting lesson in terms of knowing in advance how giving and how generous we can be, because later on we'll have to live with the consequences of our decisions.
For 13 years, the little family is racked with bitter fighting. Then one day, the aged Sarah miraculously gives birth to her own son, Isaac. She seizes the opportunity to rid herself of Hagar.
She said to Abraham, "Cast out this slave woman with her son, for the son of this slave woman shall not inherit along with my son." The matter was very distressing to Abraham on account of his son. Genesis 21:10.
Reluctantly, Abraham does as his wife commands. Hagar and her son go to the desert with only some bread and water to sustain them.
When the water in the skin was gone, she cast the child under one of the bushes. Then she went and sat down opposite him, a good way off, for she said, "Do not let me look on the death of the child." Genesis 21:15.
But an angel is watching over Hagar. A well of water miraculously appears. Hagar and her son are saved, but it has been a painful ordeal.
Everyone in the Bible who is polygamous gets into trouble. It never works. The best argument for monogamy is to see how badly polygamy works when it was tried in biblical time.